Let's talk about functions. What is a function? In math, it's essentially an input, a rule, and an output. Let's say the input is 1 and the rule is +1. The output is simply 1 plus 1, which is 2. Likewise, when the input is 2, the output is 3. The rule basically tells you the relationship between the input and the output. We can represent functions in this notation. We usually say our input is x and our output is y. Since people are also lazy and don't want to write the word function, we abbreviate the word to the letter f. Take the same example. If output is equal to input plus 1, all we need to do is to write y in terms of x, and we get the notation f of x equals to x plus 1. One thing to take note here is the letter f can be replaced by any other letter, or even Greek symbols to represent different functions. Now, we know some basic concepts of a function. Let's introduce the notion set. A set is essentially a group of numbers, nothing special. It can be a group of all natural number, a group of two numbers of your choice, or even a group of nothing, an empty set. We represent a set using these curly brackets. When we look at a function, the input and output are essentially two groups of numbers. So we can say input and output are two sets. The input set is given a special name called domain, and the output set is given the name range. Another way to say it is domain is all the possible input values and range is all the possible output values. The same concept of function applies here. We can take values from the domain, apply the rule, and you will get a number in the range. Now we know what a function is. Let's talk about ways to define a function, or ways to express a function. In general, there are 4 ways you can define a function. Analytically, which is using the function notation and formulas we just talked about. Tabularly, which is using a table to separate the input and output values. Graphically, which is using the graph on the coordinate plane. And finally, verbally, which is all of those word problems you see on the test. However, not everything is a function. There is a bigger idea called relations. Relation is simply a set of input and outputs. It may sound similar to the function, but in fact, functions are a special type of relation, just like a square is a special type of rectangle. While relations can be any inputs and outputs, functions require every input value to have exactly one output value. What does it mean? Here's an illustration. Think of each x value as a person, and each y value as each person's corresponding height. If we say John and Jane have the same height, it makes sense. Same in the function, we can have two x values pointing to one y value. However, if we say John has 2 heights, it is a false statement, because one person can only have one height. Likewise, it is a false statement to say that a function has one input and 2 corresponding outputs. One easy way to determine whether a relation is a function is to use the vertical line test. The way we do it is we look at the graph of a relation or a function and draw a vertical line on the graph. We will then move it left and right to check if this line only intersects with one point on the graph. If at any point it intersects more than one point, this graph is a relation. Otherwise, it is a function. Let's take a look at this graph. Is it a function? Well, let's draw the vertical line first. We can see that over here, it intersects only one point. However, as you shift it to the right, it starts intersecting with 2 points on the graph. So, this is a relation. But can we make it a function? Good question. Consider removing all the bottom points the line intersects. We'll get this semicircle. If we apply the vertical line test again, we found out that this is indeed a function. This is another topic on restricting the domain and range, which we will talk about in the future videos. But for now, you already know some basic concepts of a function. As a summary, a function is a special type of relation. We know a relation is a function if it passes the vertical line test. A function is denoted as f of x equals to y, where x is the input and y is the output. The input set is called domain and the output set is called range. Finally, we can express the function in 4 ways: analytically, tabularly, graphically, and verbally. Alright folks, that's all for today's video. Hope you have some takeaways, and see you next time.